My name's John. I'm the CEO of Leland. Uh, I was a deferred MBA admit a long time ago. So it's been a while since I went through the process. Back when I applied, it was only Harvard and Stanford that offered deferred MBA programs. Now every one of the top 10 programs does, which is great. I've personally helped thousands of people apply to deferred MBA programs over the last 8 years. So I know this process well. It's definitely a fun topic. And before starting Leland, actually, I ran this little company called Deferred MBA Consulting. So, like I own the deferredmba.com domain. I've been in this world a long time. We help uh, probably over half of the admits in any given cycle are on Leland. We know that at least 40%, but it's likely that it's more like 50 to 60%. This year will probably be closer to 60 or 70%. So we do a lot of deferred. It's something we know well, and excited to kind of talk through the Deferred MBA Bootcamp. And also we can talk through any application questions you guys have. We have a smaller group for this session, which is great because we can kind of answer some of your questions. So um, before I switch off this slide, make sure you enter to win a free spot in the Deferred MBA Bootcamp. You can do that here, bit.ly/deferred win. Some of you, I think, have already actually registered. If you win the giveaway, then we'll just refund you. But yeah, it's going to be awesome. We've been working on it for like 6 months, have ran boot camps like this in the past. I've ran several on the MBA side, and this one's going to be tailored to all different MBA applicants. So it's going to be a really great. We have several people already registered. So make sure you enter. And then also tonight only, you get like $500 off the price of the boot camp if you don't win. So you can take advantage of that. All right. So as I mentioned, been in the deferred MBA world for a long time. My background professionally was at Uber, LinkedIn, and then a startup called Curated. I had been running deferred MBA consulting on the side, then went to Stanford for my MBA. Was admitted to Harvard Business School through the 2+2 program as well, but chose Stanford and then started Leland while I was there and have been working on that ever since. So that's a little bit about me. I usually take on about 2 to 5 clients a year, depending on how much bandwidth I have. So happy to talk to you if you want to work together. I only have one slot left, but happy to work together. And I'm also more than happy to send you awesome folks as well that can help you with your application. So we have some amazing deferred 2+2 people. We actually have two of the founders of the deferred MBA, the 2+2 program at Harvard, on the admissions team who now coach on Leland, which is sweet. This is my goal, is that you'll text me something exciting about you getting into the 2+2 program or any one of the deferred programs, and we can celebrate together. You can email me, and then I will send you a congratulatory package. I can promise you that. So you'll get a free dinner on me and a note from the team. So if you guys don't mind dropping in the chat where you dialing in from, and then which deferred MBA programs you're planning to apply to, or at least thinking about, that's always helpful. I can kind of talk through anything in particular. And if we have time at the end of this, I'm happy to answer specific questions too. Nice. St. Paul, 2+2, GSB and HBS. Provo, nice. Just down the road from us. Awesome. We'll let these kind of trickle through. Great. Well, let's jump in. Oh, nice. Okay. HBS, Wharton, Sloan, 3 to 4. So yeah, kind of like the top programs. That's great. All right. So yeah, make sure you win, or you enter to win the giveaway. We're going to talk about what we're going to cover tonight. We basically handcrafted, after doing deferred MBA admissions for like 3 years on Leland and seeing who the best instructors are, the best coaches, basically handpicked the different folks to teach each session. And it starts in January. That's usually when a lot of the folks a lot of deferred MBA applicants start to sprint on their applications. Before then, if you can do 3 things for me, and for you mostly, number one, figure out as much as you possibly can what you're going to do full time. So it always helps in crafting your narrative and your story if you have a full-time job offer. Now, some of you are recruiting for things that will spill into early next year and have to navigate that, but it's always helpful to land that full-time job. The second thing is to try to knock out the GMAT or the GRE. You can take either one, which you will learn if you go to the GMAT or GRE sessions. Doesn't matter. Sometimes people are better suited for one or the other. B, pick the test you're going to do better on, which is obvious, but you should definitely do that. Try to knock that out before the end of the year if you can. If you can't, that's okay. You can parallel process things, but it's always easier to do that first. The last thing I would recommend doing before doing this boot camp is reconnect with former intern managers or other people that could potentially write recommendations for you. I actually teach the recommendation session in the boot camp, and we're going to do some exercises on like how to prepare them. So I always encourage people to do that. The last thing, I guess, the fourth thing that I would say that you can do is start to think through some of your narrative. The biggest difference between deferred MBA applicants and normal MBA applicants is that deferred MBA applicants have had less time to reflect on what matters to them and what they want to do with their life. Remember that the reason these schools are going to let you in is because you're going to go change the world in some interesting way, and they want to be a part of that. And that is a big task to think about when you're just trying to figure out if you're employable. You're just trying to get a job. So it's definitely a tough like mindset shift and is always helpful once you actually do get a full-time job. But that's maybe the fourth thing to think about. All right, so the course is going to be broken up into 8 different sections. The first will cover a lot of the foundations. This is like your application strategy, resume, extracurriculars, awards, honors, other parts of just like creating a compelling narrative. I'm going to teach the recommendation, how to select, prepare, and support your recommenders. There's a recommender prep document that we share with folks. We then have a session kind of kickstarting the M7 MBA essays, which I know is more general. And then we do deep dives into Harvard, Stanford, and Wharton, taught by experts in each of these topics, because these are the 3 that we see the most demand for. Of course, there's going to be some people that won't apply to all of them, or that only might apply to 1 or 2 of them, and they're still interesting to learn from the experts on. But yeah, it's nice to kind of go deep and start to actually make progress. Then we'll do a session on interviews, and the last one is just for you. It's to come and get specific help in office hours and do kind of a workshop. So we'll talk through some of the specifics in each of these. Yash, he was a deferred MBA admit to Harvard and Stanford. He is excellent. One of the best coaches on Leland for deferred. He's going to cover a lot of the kind of foundational stuff in the application. So that's that first session. He is excellent. As I mentioned, I'll do the deferred MBA, or I'll do the recommendation letters. So we'll talk through like what makes a good recommendation, how to prepare. One just tip while we're here on this topic, as you start to think about who might be a good recommender, you need them to know you well. Ideally, one of them is a former manager from an internship or other situation. You don't want to pick just some fancy person. You need them to actually be able to write a table thumping letter for you that really speaks to you and your specific strengths. And then the last thing I would say is when you are selecting, have a few conversations. And the way that I usually frame it is go up to them and say, hey, still figuring out who my recommenders are going to be, but I wanted to see if you might be open to writing a recommendation for me, and just get their thoughts. Because I did this, and one person that I thought for sure was going to write a good letter for me responded and was like, yeah, thanks for reaching out. Are you sure I'm the right person? I'm happy to do it. And I was like, yeah, I am now sure that you're not the right person. So thank you. I just kind of said, oh yeah, I'm still figuring it out. So I'll get back to you and let you know, but I appreciate you saying you're willing to. And then I asked someone else and was like, I didn't know how they would respond. And they said, yes, please let me write your recommendation. I'd love to do that. And it was so much more comforting to me to kind of have that information before actually asking them. So try to get a sense for that. And then if they say, yeah, I'd love to, and you feel good about it, then you can say, great, let me get back to you I'm going to give you a prep document that will give you some information on things to kind of think through and how to prepare. So I'll get that to you, and you try to get that to them at least a month in advance. So we'll talk more about all this stuff and go much more depth. The next thing that we're going to cover is essays. This is obviously like a really meaty topic. We have some of the free sessions through Deferred MBA Week have been kind of like 5% deep, giving you some things to think about. And a lot of these sessions are actually going to like go much deeper. We're going to do workshops. You're going to get your questions answered. We're going to do some like specific examples, do breakout rooms, do different things that actually like help you make real progress. So Tim is awesome. He's one of the most popular coaches on Leland. He worked at BCG for a bunch of years, was an admissions fellow at Booth, but really helps with all of the top 7 programs. And people really like working with Tim. He goes above and beyond. So he's going to be teaching that session. Then we're going to shift over to Stanford GSB. Ben, some of you may have maybe already working with Ben. He's definitely one of the most popular, probably a top 3 to 5 most popular MBA coach on Leland. This guy's dialed. He's one of the best writers I've ever seen, let alone one of the best admissions consultants. So he's really good with the what matters most and why, some of the deeper questions that you need to ask yourself about the Stanford essay. He also, and really all of these coaches that are teaching the sessions always fill up. So if you are interested in working with a coach, definitely reach out to them early. We can drop some of their profiles in the chat in a second. Camden went to HBS. He is one of the more structured, like kind of consultant frameworky type of coaches, but he is amazing and will just like really set you up for success on the Harvard Business School essays, which have changed in the last couple of years. So a lot of new stuff that we're learning about what they're looking for. They were different last year, so this year should be roughly the same. But he's awesome and will be a great coach. Amy was on the Wharton staff, so she does an essay deep dive on Wharton. You know, obviously, like she worked there for like 10 years, so she lives and breathes Wharton, has helped a number of people. And she was one of our first coaches on Leland, so we've seen her for a long time. She's excellent. And with these essay sessions, you're doing, you know, some of the brainstorming around what are these schools actually looking for? Let's actually start to write some examples. It helps to just kind of get your thoughts going and like understand what good looks like. These essays need to be excellent. I remember the first time I wrote my first draft of my Harvard essay when I applied. I was like, oh, this is okay. And my mom was like, oh yeah, this is awesome. And then I showed my coach and he was like, this is terrible. And we had a good relationship, so it didn't offend me too much. But I realized that like the bar was much higher than like regurgitating your resume. So that's the kind of the point of these essay sessions, to kind of get yourself in the mindset and really be like the most affordable way to give you access to these coaches without you know, needing to pay for a time with all of them individually. So that's a really valuable part of it. And then we do a session on MBA interviews. We get Dion. She's like an OG MBA admissions consultant. She's been in this industry forever, like 25 years, was on the admissions committee at Stanford, super popular coach, and is excellent. So she goes into depth on like some of the strategies to nailing your interview. And then the last session, as I mentioned, is just in office hours. So you're going to have breakout rooms where you'll be able to go and get like your specific questions answered from a bunch of different experts at any of the top M7 programs. So that's kind of the quick overview. It's going to be awesome. We've put a lot of time and thought into this. We've done several on the traditional MBA side. I actually ran my first Deferred MBA Bootcamp 5 years ago. So, or maybe like 4 years ago. It was a long time, almost 5 years ago. So I've kind of been thinking about these and curated it in a bunch of different ways for a long time and feel really excited about this. If you were to kind of buy this a la carte, all the different instruction, different activities, different mock, you get a free mock interview once you actually land a code. Once you land an interview, you get a free mock interview, which is great. You'll get access to Leland Plus, which is the library with sample essays, resumes. I actually wrote a lot of the content in Deferred MBA for the Deferred MBA Leland Plus, and you know, it's worth a lot. Usually it's priced at $1,200, but tonight only we're doing a $500 discount, so it's $699. Definitely make sure you take advantage of this, even if you don't win the giveaway, because it's going to be it's going to be a lot more expensive, and we really try to pack in as much value as possible and want to make sure that we get a really great cohort of people that can get in. So yeah, I'll leave this up here for a second and want to make sure that we get your questions answered, both about the bootcamp and about any other questions you have related to Deferred. I'm happy to. Ideally, question could be useful to multiple people, but I'm happy to answer questions in any direction. So, Erica, if you don't mind dropping the link for them to enter the giveaway in the chat, we'll do the giveaway winner in just a second. I'll let this hang around for the next few minutes. Yeah, what questions you guys have? You're welcome to come off mute. You're welcome to drop it in the chat. Happy to talk about anything. Sid, hit me with it.
Hi, hello. First of all, congrats on the Series A. That's amazing. Congratulations on that big achievement. My question is, I think I'm looking at the website right now, and you showed it earlier as well. It shows custom-built interactive activities, which is included in the course. Could you maybe further expand on that? What does that look like?
Yeah, exactly. Good question. So a lot of the custom activities are both in Leland Plus. So you'll get access to some of the like here's like the framework for how to think about picking your recommenders and some of the like the templates you can use to kind of weight certain things. There's other custom activities in the essay sessions where they'll give you some take home assignments to go and like, do some of these like fill out this form or fill out this thing. You kind of get some help as you think through the types of topics you want to talk through in your essay. So it's geared to each session. You'll get pre-work and kind of homework after each session. It's really to help you, so you don't, obviously don't have to do it. But a lot of the folks that get the most out of the boot camp are the ones doing those like custom interactive activities. For example, I'll drop it in the chat right here. We have an MBA recommender. I have the recommender prep doc that I'll drop in. That kind of gives you a sense for like one of the activities that I do in my session. That yeah, we'll do together actually in the session. So good question. And thank you for the Series A comment. That's nice. Sri, you dropped a question in the chat, and then we'll kick it over to Akshay. Thoughts on both the recommendation letters being from intern managers? Do we need a professor research type recommendation? So for the deferred programs, you should look at the specific schools you're applying to. And I'll talk about this in my recommender session. But some of the schools specify that they don't want professors. And the reason they don't want professors is because professors don't always have a good glimpse into how you operate as a leader, which is what you are, ideally going to become post business school or even pre-business school or even are now. And so sometimes the professor angle is not what they want. Some schools, however, say they do want a professor. So I think Sloan is one of those. They like someone that's kind of a professor. Now, if you pick a professor, pick someone that can talk to you or experience outside of just being like a student that turns their homework in, right? You want to be someone that's, so ideally someone you've TA'd for, you have some sort of relationship. And so but generally speaking, like Harvard and Stanford in particular, they actually would probably prefer not having a professor. They would probably prefer intern managers or other, extracurricular types of folks. So that's something you can work through with your coach and something that I'm happy to talk through in more depth specifically. But yeah, I would say if you have one former direct manager, then you have some flexibility beyond that. And so I would definitely encourage you to at least have one that's a former direct manager, and then you can kind of pick a professor, pick a researcher, pick an extracurricular mentor, or pick another intern manager. And professor club advisor can be good. Yeah. I think you're just to kind of work backwards from what they want to see. They want to know, is this person going to be a leader that changes the world? And so you need someone that can talk to different skills that you have. Often intern managers like have a gauge on your analytical ability or your ability to maybe work with different people, but they may not see you as a leader because they've just been passing work down to you and you're working on slides or whatever. And so sometimes like the professor or club advisor that sees you as like the president of the consulting club, maybe they can speak to like, oh, this person, is really good at like building an inclusive culture. They're a great leader. They kind of like have a more dynamic angle. So that could be that is a very common pick. Akshay.
Yeah, thanks a lot, John, for hosting this. I've actually already gotten the bootcamp package. I actually wanted to ask, a lot of us are drawn to Stanford in particular because of entrepreneurial aspirations and the network effects that Silicon Valley has. Based on your own entrepreneurial journey, could you speak to how Stanford helped you as an entrepreneur and before or after founding Leland? I was just very curious to know this.
Yeah. And yeah, excited to have you in the bootcamp. That'll be great. So it was super helpful for me. And I think there's obviously lots of ways to build a company. And of course, you don't need an MBA to build a company. But what I would say is that it's very rare to have a collection of both people and resources and a community and a network and a campus and all these different things kind of come together in a way that gives you time and space to explore and learn and like kind of serve as a launch pad. and a pretty low risk launch pad where if it doesn't work out, you can go work at a startup and go do something else. So for me, it was really valuable. I was pretty committed. And so I started even in my first year working on a company, working on Leland. And I was able to raise some money while I was there. And like there are VCs crawling around the campus. They're hosting events. They're like trying to get in front of students so that students will want to work with them. So that's just a rare thing that most people don't have. And so that was super helpful. And even if you're not trying to raise money, I think just being able to meet smart people and be able to recruit talent, I think that was also super helpful. So yeah, I can, and I know that that's true. I think Harvard has done a good job, and Wharton and a couple of the other great programs that they tend to have entrepreneurs. Stanford obviously is, I think, a different level, just given it's in Silicon Valley, but there's obviously great entrepreneurs at a lot of the schools. So it's a good question though. And sorry, just one other thing I would add on that is that there are a lot of specific resources geared towards startup founders. Like I did Startup Garage, which is where DoorDash was founded. And I didn't do Lean Launchpad, which is another great program. I took a bunch of classes related to it. I was in a fellowship with Excel. My summer internship was sponsored by a partner at Sequoia who just let people build companies and paid them to do it. So there's a lot of that kind of stuff that's really helpful. Okay. We had a couple questions come through the chat. Unable to talk. Let's see. Direct supervisor. There's moving to a different department at my part-time job. Would I still be able to have that person write my letter of recommendation, even though my direct will change soon? Yes, absolutely. So the direct doesn't necessarily need to be like the direct right now. It just needs to be a former direct manager. So ideally, it's like not from 7 years ago, but I think it sounds like it's pretty recent, so that totally works. If you're working as a research assistant for a PhD candidate, would it be okay if he writes the recommendation letter? Yes, Paula, I think, you definitely want to establish some credibility. So they ideally can establish. So sorry, let me clarify one thing on recommendations, and we'll go into a lot more depth on this in my actual session, but recommenders need to be able to compare you to your peers. And so people that don't have a ton of visibility into like how you stack up against other people like you or at your same level have a hard time doing that. So if it's a PhD candidate, ideally they can talk to like why you as their research assistant went above and beyond. And then also like research is like a little bit harder to show leadership or some of the other things, but maybe they hammer like analytical horsepower or some of the other like traits you want to show. And then maybe your other recommender talks about leadership and some other thing. Like if you do nothing else, make sure they know you're a good leader. Like make sure, and that doesn't need to be like a fake form of leadership. Each of you can show leadership in different ways. Some of you are going to be quieter, some of you are going to be, more technical. You can show leadership in different ways, but it needs to be clear that you are a leader. Okay, we got a lot of questions coming through the chat, but Isaac, since you have your hand raised, I'll let you go first, and then we'll see if we can get through some of the others.
So I was just another question about sort of recommenders. I have my direct intern manager, who is the supply chain manager of the place I worked for. I think he would be a really great, like, kind about it, but I didn't really get a lot of engagement with him, and I've sort of lost a little bit of contact with him. And then I have another one who is the president of my school, who I work for directly. But he's like I said, I don't engage with him like every single day, so I didn't have as close engagement with him, but I do work with him directly. Do you have any opinions on which one I should favor?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll tell you, I don't know exactly the situation or all the details, but I'll tell you the principles, and we can talk more about it later, or hopefully you can join the boot camp. But basically, like the principles to think about are, can they write a table thumping letter for you specifically? And sometimes people optimize for like, oh, this person is impressive, and I hope they do that, and that is wrong. You should definitely optimize for someone that can really pound the table for you. Now, if you're like, hey, both of them really like me and are both going to write a good recommendation, all things held equal, someone that's more senior or has more credibility is great. Like I would pick that person. But you don't want to sacrifice some of the relationship for kind of the clout of the person. But anyways, I'm gonna hammer through some of these last couple, and then I'll announce the winner of the bootcamp giveaway. Yes, Sid, the bootcamp lectures will be recorded. You'll have access to Leland Plus. I think, Erica, you can confirm, but I think it's like 2 or 3 months you get free access to Leland Plus. Yeah, I'm pretty sure maybe it's 2 months throughout the bootcamp. So yeah, you'll have access to all of those recorded lectures and some of the take homes, and then all the other stuff that's in Leland Plus. How important is the prestige and ranking of the undergraduate school we attended in admissions? It's not the end of the, so, undergraduate prestige matters in recruiting sometimes, like getting a job. So if you can get a great job out of anywhere, then, it's great. And in many ways, like these schools actually want a broad collection of undergraduate universities. They brag about having we had 150 different schools represented in our HBS class. So in some ways it can be a disadvantage to be coming from too fancy of a school if you have 50 other people that look exactly like you also applying. But I don't think, I wouldn't worry too much about it. I think it's much more important who you are, the type of work you're headed to do, that kind of thing. And then last question I'll answer, and then we will do the giveaway winner. Is there any disadvantage in applying to your alma mater for a deferred MBA? I am an undergrad at Stanford, but I haven't seen many who ended up going to the GSB. Definitely other deferred MBAs like HBS. Yeah, I actually had a number of deferred MBA folks that were Stanford undergrads that wanted to come back. They usually had a very specific reason for why they wanted to come back. But yeah, it was actually more common than I thought it would be. So it's totally up to you. I think some of them were they wanted to go build a company for a few years and then go back to the GSB to maybe do something else after, or they felt like the GSB network was going to be different than the network they were going to get at Stanford. So it is common. I think, people sometimes like to go to HBS or another school because they can get a different experience, but I wouldn't rule it out. I would just choose it if you actually think it would be valuable to you in some way. Okay, so the giveaway winner is Jalak Sahe, which I'm pronouncing wrong. I'm sorry. But we will DM you and or shoot you an email, and congrats. You are going to get a free slot in the bootcamp. Yeah, OMG. We'll shoot you a DM. Congrats. Glad to have you. And I hope to see many more of you there. Thanks for joining. I hope this was helpful even beyond the bootcamp. I promise that we're here to help and we're rooting for you guys. Please keep me posted on your progress. Let me know if I can help in any way. And good luck. You got this.